Today's show is brought to you by GoDaddy. Buy your own domain name, build your site, or use any of GoDaddy's business tools and save 30%. Just go to trygodaddy.com/HWT. That's trygodaddy.com/HWT. Welcome to Hey We're Talking, and I'm hoping that both the bottles show up in the picture.
I do too.
You got Maker's 46 and Glenlivet, and then what do you have, Derek? I bet you it's Lafroig or what is it?
No,
Arlebeck.
No.
Uh-oh.
Quit interrupting.
Just say what it is for crying out loud.
This is a blended Scotch. It's Hamilton's. It's Islay whiskeys. It's Islay Scotch whiskey. This is Scotch.
Scotch. Scotchy Scotch.
Scotch. And then this is Jim Beam
Black.
Extra aged. Yeah.
What?
How is that?
Probably not good.
What?
Jim Beam?
No, yes, it's good. This is a good bourbon. We'll talk about it.
Okay. So if you haven't noticed, got a couple of lushes on the show. We're going to be talking about Bourbon and Scotch. In fact, I think, does Jim Beam make Devil's Cut? I think they do.
Sure.
Yeah, they do. That was pretty good. I used to like that. Oh, wait. Quick side note. Dad, don't listen to this show. It's about alcohol. You'll be upset.
Idiots.
You'll be sad. Don't listen to it.
Listen to it. Learn. Appreciate.
He's not going to like it. He will not.
But you got to get your judging on, Mr. Scott.
He's not
Mr.
judging.
Scott's dad.
That's the way he believes. He doesn't think that we should drink. So,
At least Jesus drank wine.
no, it was just grape juice. It was just grape juice. That's how all the people at the wedding got drunk, was because it was grape juice.
Yep.
The guy got mad at him because he brought out the good grape juice after everybody was already drunk.
And that's how the first case of incest occurred as well.
What?
Two young girls got their father drunk on wine.
That is not. But not at the wedding ceremony. You
not at
freaked
the wedding
me out.
ceremony.
Lot's daughters.
Different serious situation.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Why do you bring up incest?
I brought it up to prove that the wine had alcohol in it.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good case.
If
you end up
really
having
argue
sex
that.
with your dad, yeah.
Right.
Well,
because you're drinking wine.
right.
Yeah, it kind of proves there's alcohol in the wine.
There were some drunks in the Bible, everybody, just so you know. Like people that got drunk, at least. Like Noah. Oof. Yeah.
Wow. This kind of took a
did.
dark yet biblical turn. I
see you idiots. That's why you're not supposed to drink.
Exactly. And my dad uses the verse, "Don't give your neighbor strong drink." But there's also a verse in Proverbs that says to give your neighbor beer and wine.
Does it say beer?
Yeah. Yeah.
What version?
It's like I guess I shouldn't say it says the actual word beer, but it's basically, yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Ale.
Something. It's another. Anyway, I'm going to get yelled at just for saying that. Okay.
What is strong drink though? What is that?
Like alcohol, like hard liquor.
Like, but did they have stills? Like, did they make spirits?
Oh gosh, are you kidding?
Like the history of no, I'm saying like I know that there were fermented beverages like wine and beer, but did they have distilling technology?
I have no idea.
Time?
I have no idea. That's a great. You should study that for us because you would like studying it. You would try and find out. I could care less.
Maybe I'll just ask my pastors when I go to church this weekend.
Hey,
do you think your pastor would know? I'm sure he would.
Idea.
He went to seminary, I'm assuming, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
WWJD. What would Jesus drink?
What? He wouldn't drink water on a fast.
No,
I know that.
No,
Jesus did not drink water, guys. Let's just
Well,
according to Bob,
I think part of the thing that you hear, I'm not saying this is the argument my dad uses, but a lot of times people will tell you that are really strict Christians about the drinking. They'll say that they drank wine because the water wasn't clean back then. And so wine was a way to get, but the thing that's so funny about that is wine does not, first of all, it's not going to quench your thirst and it's not going to hydrate you. Okay. No. So that's a silly argument to me.
Hey, that's true though. But back in like medieval times, the water was undrinkable. So people would serve beer. They would serve they would serve very weak beer, very weak wine, and that's how you got your alcohol. That's how you got your hydration.
Or they could just boil water and drink it.
I know. Why not cook the water?
Because drinking, I mean, you got an excuse to drink, right?
Right.
So it's like, well, we could boil the water, or you could have,
or we could make beer. It will take a few months, but we will have some beer.
Like, guys, boiling is so hard. Let's just drink beer.
I mean, listen, these people couldn't even take baths, right? I mean, that was a big deal. So,
well, in the river.
Well, it blunts the senses whenever you're intoxicated. Kind of
deadens the stink of how bad you smell. I'm talking about during like the Dark Ages, Bob.
None of us here are. Not one of us here are strict Christians, or as I like to call them, strictions.
Restrictions.
That's
pretty good. Restrictions?
I like to do that. Yeah, strictions.
I just think there's a lot of difference in belief as far as drinking and overindulging and different things like that. So does not say I don't see it anywhere that says sustain from drink, but it does say do not overindulge.
Oh, Dad, don't listen.
The things you do.
Don't do it, Dad. The funny thing about strictions, I just want to do a little side note here. There's a guy on Facebook that for some reason routinely just picks a fight with me about political stuff. He's a guy that was like a grade behind me in school, and he really hates Trump. I mean, with a passion, hates Donald Trump. And he always talks about how Donald Trump is the most evil man that's ever existed. And so I don't think he's the most evil man that ever existed, so I disagree. And a girl that was in his class that I went to a Christian school, she came on and she was like, she said that I was a jerk and disgusting, and that she wondered if I even knew Jesus. And I was like, oh, okay. And then,
well, she's got half of that right.
And then she said, she was like, he's probably a Baptist and he thinks drinking and dancing are wrong. And I laughed so hard because I'm so far from a Baptist. I told her that's the funniest thing you've ever said. I'm not a Baptist at all.
Yeah, you should see this guy dance. He knows how to dance.
I just thought it was funny that somebody called me a Baptist. Like it was an insult. Yeah.
Like an insult, yeah.
You dirty Baptist.
Guess who here is a Southern Baptist?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a Southern Baptist.
Do you dance?
But not really, but not for religious or spiritual reasons. It's because I stink at it.
Yeah.
And would rather, I mean, I could probably like maybe two-step.
He could cut a rug
with my wife, like maybe
like a boot
one
boogie or something.
Yeah,
like 1 3/4 step. I mean, not full two-step. I'm not that good. I can do the grab and sway like you would do like at a prom or a high
on the
school
slow dance.
Yeah, I could do that, but
sorry about your feet. Oh.
Yeah. I really do. My wife really does want to do more dancing. I'm gonna go dancing.
Yeah, dude.
I'm a Baptist, but we dance.
You're a dancing Baptist.
I just want to dance.
Yeah, exactly.
Dance around here. People love going to the
honky tonk.
Well, they're not really. They're like dance halls. We have
dance halls.
We have them. We have a dance hall locally.
You guys have any discos there, or just dance halls?
No, we don't have any discotheque, but we have the country western dance halls, which is run by Jody Nix and the Texas Cowboys.
Listen to this guy. Name dropping. I like it.
Jody, if you want to sponsor, hey, we're talking.
Exactly. Great.
See See me at church.
Yeah, see me at the Baptist church before we go dancing.
But Jody Dinick, he goes to my church.
That's cool. That's cool.
Like it's a big deal. Like y'all know who that is.
No, but that's good to know. A guy who owns does he not just dance? He owns a dance place. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
My dad's gonna pray for him. All right.
He's well known in the Texas country world.
There you go. All right. So today we're going to talk about alcohol, specifically whiskey alcohols. I have nothing to add. I don't have anything to add. I'm going to learn from these two. They each have their little, what do they call? Are these snifters or what are they called?
A Glencairn.
A Glencairn.
Yeah. A couple named Glenn and Karen got them for us.
Is it?
They're very nice. They had this housewarming party and decided to give us a glass because we gave them a nice gift. Derek and I went on this bread maker for their wedding and their housewarming party. It was great.
That's awesome.
So yes, Glenn and Karen gave us these glasses.
Glencairn glasses. And Bob has a bourbon, technically. Maker's Mark is bourbon, correct? And then you have an Irish whiskey. Is it a Scotch or is it a whiskey?
It's a single malt Scotch.
Okay,
Scotch whiskey.
Scotch whiskey.
Yes.
And then Derek has Jim Beam, and he has that.
What you looking at?
Issel.
Yeah, it looks like it's Islay, but it's Isla. Islay. It's pronounced Isla. And then I have an American bourbon. All right, so there are 4 major kinds of whiskey,
and you can only hit one at a time. Go ahead.
There's American whiskey, which is also known as bourbon. They have like a subgenre of bourbon. Okay. There's Canadian whiskey. There's Irish whiskey, and there's Scotch whiskey.
Okay.
So there you go. It's a distilled beverage. You know, the beer that it's distilled from is made from corn. Primarily, it's got to be at least 51% corn. It's aged in oak barrels, depending on the kind of American whiskey. American bourbon is primarily made from corn. I don't really know the requirements of like Irish whiskey or Canadian whiskey. Canadian whiskey is stuff like Crown Royal and things like that. But
are either of you fans of that stuff, the Canadian whiskeys?
I have tried Crown Royal a long time ago, but I've not had it since I've really started getting into the different spirits. So that's something that I'll wind up picking up a bottle just to sample it again. I always remember having it like mixed drinks and stuff. So that's something I'd like to try by itself.
Okay. And then Irish whiskey, you said you don't know what the...
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with the Irish whiskey and the Canadian whiskey rules and whatever the components that it's made from, the mash bill, as it were.
The mash bill?
The mash bill. That's what grains are used, when they add water to the grain and then yeast, and it creates like this beer, this wash or this mash, which is it runs about 5 to 10% alcohol, and then they run that through a still, and that's how you get liquor or spirits.
Whiskey.
So the Irish whiskey is made just like the Scotch is, with the grain, it's grain whiskey basically. So the Irish whiskey is. Trying to find out if I could see percentages, but
there's no peat in it though, right? It doesn't have bog or peat or whatever like Scotch, correct?
Well, Scotch is made with malted barley. That's what the grain is. It's supposed to be 100% malted barley. Now, this particular, the Islay Scotch, the malted barley is dried with peat. Like they use the peat. They set it on fire, and the smoke that dries out the barley flavors it heavily. So it makes it taste real smoky and peaty and salty. That's where it comes from. But
sounds so gross.
But peat doesn't go into the whiskey. It's like
but
it doesn't.
The smoke of it though.
The flavoring, yeah, and it tastes great. Now,
are you sure? Didn't you tell us one of them? He told us one of them tasted like medical waste or something like that.
No.
What did you say that one time?
Think about this. Some pipe tobaccos are made the same way with that smoky flavor, like a Kentucky fire cured.
Right.
As basically they dry the tobacco leaves, hang them in a barn, and build a fire underneath them, and they're dried with the smoke and the heat from the fire that's built underneath them. So it's kind of the same way. If you've had a tobacco that is Kentucky fire cured, you're going to get a lot of that smokiness and that kind of flavor out of it.
And a lot of Kia
kind of
as well.
Same thing. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of Kia is done kind of the same way.
Okay. Well, listen, we'll take another quick break here. Just one. But we're going to take a break and come back, and we'll talk a little bit more about, get into the Scotch. Because I think out of all the ones that we're talking about, that's the one that people don't know that much about, if you ask me. Unless you're really into Scotch, I think generally people don't understand Scotch as well. Would you agree or disagree?
It just depends on who you are. I think that, Irish and Canadian whiskeys are probably... I mean, I don't think any whiskey is understood. I mean, maybe people are more familiar with like bourbon, but I don't know.
Okay, that blows that theory out of the water. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
only know myself, Scott. I only know what I know. I don't know what everybody else.
That's true.
I have theories, but...
And I think I'm watching Bob, and he's doing some research over there, so he's going to drop some knowledge on us, too. So, all right. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Fast, simple, and affordable. That's what registering your domain name with GoDaddy will be. Fast, simple, affordable. And if you listen to this show, Hey, We're Talking, you know you're getting a discount, 30% off, if you go to trygodaddy.com/HWT. Again, 30% off. All you have to do is go to trygodaddy.com/HWT for 30% off your domain name and other business services provided by GoDaddy. Hey everybody, it's Scott from Hey, We're Talking. You've heard us talk about Gamefly.com before. The basics are this. They've got over 8,000 titles for every gaming platform you can think of, and they're giving you a 30-day free trial. That's right, 30-day free trial for you, the listeners of Hey, We're Talking. You want to play video games? You want to be a champ at video games? Go to gameflyoffer.com/HWT. That's gameflyoffer.com/HWT for your 30-day free trial. We got a drinking problem here on Hey, We're Talking. Not really. I don't.
I don't think you said, "Hey, we're talking" at the beginning of the show. That's kind of
didn't?
funny. I don't think so.
That's probably true. I didn't.
Did you even introduce us?
No, he didn't introduce us the last couple shows.
I mean, if people don't know us by now.
I'm Derek Tant, by the way, and to my right is Bob Peel.
Are you sure he's to your right?
And to my left is Scott TD.
Scotty D. I hope you're right. I never know where we're going to show up in the video. All right.
I mean, it's on my screen.
Okay, on your screen.
Bob's right there.
Bob, say hi when he says who you are.
I'm Bob.
Okay.
And
I'm Scotty D.
There you go.
All right. So we were talking a little bit about Irish whiskey. So what did I do? I hit up Google. Why wouldn't I? So here's what we're going to say about Irish whiskey. It's obviously Irish. It's from Ireland and Northern Ireland. Okay, they call it the Republic of Ireland on here, by the way. And just like Derek said, it's malt Irish whiskey using 100% malted barley. It's distilled in pot stills. Single malt whiskeys come from one distillery. Pot still whiskey is made from a mash of a minimum of 30% malted and a minimum of 30% unmalted barleys, with up to 5% of other cereals added. That you should like that, Bob. It has cereal in it.
I love cereal.
How do you like that? So the grain, it's 30% malted barley. This is all boring stuff. Unmalted corn. It usually has corn, wheat, or barley, and it's single grain. Okay, but they do have blended Irish whiskeys also. So that's Irish whiskey. I think
you got your Jameson and what is it? Dewars.
There's all sorts of them.
Tullamore Dew, Redbreast. These are all examples of Irish whiskey.
There you go. It has to be bottled at no less than 40% alcohol by volume, by the way.
Wow.
That's generally most.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules and regulations.
What did you say? Jameson's? What's the other one you said?
Those are like Bushmills.
Yep, there's
and
Bushmills,
Dewars.
Middleton, Tullamore.
Tullamore Dew and Redbreast.
Redbreast, yep. Green spot.
and the green spot, yeah. And sometimes they have the yellow spot.
Connemara, Teeling. There you go. There's a bunch of them. Interesting. So the Irish whiskeys, I actually think that's the ones that I first tried before I ever tried any kind of whiskey.
Yeah, Jameson's was probably one of the first ones I tried. I love it. The Caskmates.
I want to try that one.
It's so good. It's aged in craft beer stout barrels, so you get that a lot of the flavors coming off of a stout beer as well, and that one's really, really good. My bottle's empty, otherwise it'd be up here.
You have a lot of whiskeys, bro.
Well, I didn't grab the rest of them, but I only have so much room on the table.
Bro.
So these are just a couple. The Samuel Grant, which is a Kentucky straight bourbon.
Okay.
This one's pretty good. This Wild Turkey, everyone knows that probably this one is a very powerful, very strong bourbon.
Yeah.
It's more of a mixing bourbon than it is drinking straight. So.
Oh, yeah. Before we move on to the bourbons, did y'all want to say anything about like how Irish whiskey tastes? Because like from what I understand, all whiskeys kind of have similar characteristics, because they're aged in these oak barrels. But for me, I think Irish whiskey is it's kind of light. And the flavors are a little bit more subtle. They're more floral and kind of light-ish, as opposed to some of the heavy hitters like the Islay Scotches or bourbon.
Yeah, I think the Irish ones, I don't think they're as strong, so you don't get that as much alcohol flavoring in your mouth. So you get that, but after you take a sip, I think that kind of goes away a little bit.
Once it burns your taste buds, you don't taste it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is going to burn your taste buds a little bit.
Once the heat rushes through your mouth and throat.
That's why you add a little water, guys.
Right, I know. So, okay. Yeah, Irish whiskey, I would say out of the three of us, I think most of us are probably not like huge Irish whiskey fans. I mean, we like it, but it's not our go-to.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, tell us about bourbons.
Yeah, my go-to is more of a bourbon. Basically, you have an American whiskey. Bourbon is an American whiskey that comes in many forms. Bourbon is the most recognized throughout all of America. Out of all the American whiskeys, it can only be produced in the United States, which is pretty interesting. But contrary to belief, a lot of people believe that they can only be made in Kentucky, which isn't necessarily true.
Not completely true, no.
Yeah, the Kentucky straight bourbons are made in Kentucky. The Tennessee whiskey is made in Tennessee, but it can be produced anywhere throughout the United States. And with bourbon, they actually use bourbon. It's got to have at least 51% corn in the mash and the makeup. A lot of them are way above the 51%, but to be a bourbon, it's got to be at least 51%. So as far as bourbons, there's so many American bourbons out there. It's not even funny. Woodford Reserve is one of my favorites. They've got them in oak barrels as well. All the Jack Daniels, the Wild Turkey. I mean, there's so many of them. It's not even.
I want you to Jim Beam.
Yeah, Jim Beam's got a whole line of them, all different types.
I want you to try Buffalo Trace.
I haven't had that.
That stuff is
Buffalo
so good.
Trace. Yeah. There are lots of bourbons. There's bourbon made in Texas. There's bourbon made in Colorado. They make it in Wyoming. It's all over the place.
And bourbons are super hot right now. Like, people will kill for bourbon, especially in other countries and stuff. They want
huge.
Bourbon. They're huge.
Yeah.
And bourbon can be done with different grains and rye and wheat and stuff like that as well. They mix that into it, but it's got to have that makeup.
That's the other thing that's pretty good. Have you had a rye before? They're pretty good.
I've never had a rye.
Try Bullet Rye. I think you would really like it. It's good. It's very good. It's got a very different taste, but it's very nice. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we talk about Canadian whiskeys, I think a lot of Canadian whiskeys are utilizing rye now. Rye's big in Canada, but
rye's pretty big in Canada, eh?
But bourbon, one of the distinguishing characteristics of bourbon, it has to be aged no less than 2 years in a brand new charred oak barrel.
Yep.
So that's where we get a lot of that flavor, because it's brand new oak. And that's the distinguishing characteristic of the flavor of bourbon, is that oak. You get that oaky kind of vanilla, just that strong flavor. That's what you get. That's what's predominant. And I have right here in my hand is Jim Beam Black. It's aged about 6 years. I think the white label might be aged about 2 or 3 years. That's the cheaper one. This is the next step up. It's a little bit more expensive, not too bad. You get this for about $20-$25 for a bottle. And I've had a lot of bottles of bourbon in my liquor cabinet before, and I've had some blind taste tests, and the Jim Beam Black, surprisingly, at its price point, did much better, as well or better against some of the more higher priced bourbons. So whenever people ask, hey, what's a good bourbon to get? I always like to recommend Jim Beam Black. Doesn't break the bank. It's good. It's high quality. I also like Buffalo Trace. It's good.
Buffalo Trace is really hard to find, by the way. It's not easy to get a hold of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, those are great recommendations. So if you want to start off trying bourbon, the recommendations Derek just made are great because they're not super expensive. Don't think you have to go out there and buy a $40, $50, $70 bottle, anything like that. Go with something more affordable like the Jim Beam and see if you like it.
Especially because what if you don't like it? You spend $50 on whiskey and you're going to be like, dang it. I think sticking with some of those, like even another Jim Beam that was really good too is that Devil's Cut. I mentioned that already, and it's not expensive either. I would recommend people try that. And then if you really get serious about it, there's places like, we've talked about Derek trying to make his own Pappy Van Winkle. If you ever have a chance to try that. And my favorite story about that is that your brother slammed a glass of Pappy Van Winkle because he thought they were just doing a shot, and the guy was like, dude, that's Pappy Van Winkle. That was pretty funny.
And I've never had it. I've never had it. Both my brothers have had it before. They've had different iterations of the Pappy Van Winkle or in that family of liquors, and I'm just sitting here mixing whiskeys together. It was funny. I got a comment on my video that I made when I was mixing the two whiskeys together, how to make the poor man's Pappy. And someone was like, I just spent 14 minutes watching one man transfer liquids from one container to the other. And I'm like, that's what I do at my job too, bro.
Right. So Derek, can you tell us about Scotch? Get in a little more detail about Scotch.
Do we want to do whiskey, Canadian whiskey first? We'll just touch on that.
Well, you have talked about Scotch before, so we do know that. But so yeah,
let me just let's get Canadian whiskey out.
Just smack it. Put it right on.
They're moving a lot to rye. Rye is a very spicy taste of a wheat, but Canadian is blended. It can be any grain, anything. Is the Wild West when it comes to Canadian whiskey rules. It can be anything.
I love the way you said that. I don't know why. Okay, and then Scotch, you've told us before. The basic thing, the reason that there's a different taste to Scotch is because they dry the grains with the peat, or what do they do?
Yeah, on this the island of Islay, there's 5 different regions in Scotland. That they have whiskey. There's like the Highlands, the Lowlands, Speyside, Islay, and like something else. And they all have different ways of doing it. But Scotch is made from 100% malted barley. It has to be aged in like used bourbon barrels. That's what they have to age that in.
Okay.
So, but the Islay Scotches, they're different because when they're malting that barley, when they're drying it out, they use peat, which is like the mud from that island. That's what's available. When you harvest that mud, which when I say harvest, you're just getting a shovel and digging it up,
scooping it up.
They let it dry, and it's like a fuel. It's like a fire log. It's like firewood.
Yeah.
And so they use that to dry out the barley, but that it creates just this heavy smoke, and that flavors the barley. And so when they make the whiskey, that smoke, that peaty, salty flavor makes it into the final product.
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool.
The other region, by the way, is Campbelltown.
Yeah, Campbelltown.
There you go.
That's where Campbell soup comes from.
Exactly. one of my favorite scotches, Campbell soup.
Campbell soup. It's amazing.
See, Bob has like Glenlivet there. I think that's I couldn't tell you what region it's from, but they don't use the peat in that. So Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, and all these other ones, they have a much lighter, like florally, honey, vanilla kind of taste to them. And it's not going to be like an overwhelming, powerful flavor like you get from a bourbon or like you get from like an Islay Scotch. They go for the more subtle, deeper flavors.
Yeah, this is in the distilled in the Livet Valley, which I don't know what Banffshire is, but that could be something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listen, I think we've overdosed on whiskey. Not really, but you guys have only had a few sips, it looks like. But don't forget, check out our new sponsor, GoDaddy. GoDaddy has domain names and a bunch of services for your website and for your different needs that you'll have when you're putting up a website. And you can get 30% off if you go to trygodaddy.com/HWT. Again, that's trygodaddy.com/HWT.
So ironic that you're pitching the GoDaddy thing and your dad is not watching.
That's true.
Yeah.
He might watch and just yell at us the whole time.
It would be an honor to be yelled at like in person by your dad. I think that'd be fun.
He wouldn't. That's the thing. He probably wouldn't. In real life, he wouldn't yell at you. He'll only yell
No,
at
but
me.
he'd probably call us idiots, though. Idiots.
No, not when he just met you. He'd have to really get to know you, and even then, I don't know.
So it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
You know,
he has to really love you to tell you you're an idiot.
To my face,
right?
But like behind
your
our
back,
back,
he'll call you an idiot like crazy. Yeah, why not?
So why's your dad always got to talk crap?
I don't know. All right, so
Teespring, check out our Teespring store. Check out GameFly. Links all in the bucket below.
GameFlyOffer.com/HWT. Yeah.
I didn't want to have to say it again. It's down in the bucket below.
Yeah, we got a lot of
Go
stuff.
and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff.
And you can check us out on YouTube and Facebook if you want to watch the video. Otherwise, just listen on your favorite podcast app. That's what we have to say about that. All right, we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.